Hello, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about the latest episode of Miss Marvel, that is episode number 4. To begin with, I want to talk about some of the more overarching things, and specifically, let's talk about actually going to Pakistan, as well as the food that we get to see, and some of the relatives and things like that. Things that I feel like are more just meant to add to the authenticity and the existence of this world. And yeah, let's just get right into it. First off, the food, I just thought this was really, really lovely. I mean, as a Desi person myself, seeing all the food that was incorporated into the episode, I mean, there wasn't a ton, but specifically the pani puri scene, as well as the biryani later on, it was just interesting to see because I didn't know specifically what similarities there were between the types of food that people eat in Pakistan versus India. And this just highlighted yet another similarity that I've been seeing in the show when compared to some of the languages and stuff as well that we've been hearing in the show as well. I just found it pretty interesting from someone who is from the same area in the world through family, right? But at the same time, not someone who's kind of lived in that area, and seeing some of the cultural similarities that exist there. Also, the fact that we end up in Pakistan in this episode was pretty interesting for me because honestly, it looks very, very similar to what I would see if I was to go to India and to walk around there, and you have the haggling, you have the different foods, you have these in this environment, right? It looks very, very similar to what I've seen in the past when I've visited, especially when you look at something like a city environment. Moreover, I really enjoyed the fact that we get a lot more information and revelations in this episode, specifically the idea that Thor himself would be considered a Djinn if he showed up in olden Pakistan or India, right? I mean, this to me, I just think it's really, really interesting because it means that the idea of a Djinn isn't mutually exclusive to the clandestines, and it's not specific to this group of people. It's just what they called people with abilities that had special gifts and stuff like that. So I would say that pretty much any mutant or inhuman would also fall under this banner. It just seems that is the route that they're going with it, and it seems the clandestine name is more likely to be what they're actually called, I think. But yeah, I just really found that entertaining, and it added more information to that revelation from the previous episode. Getting into the actual pieces of the episode, the first thing I want to talk about specifically would be the travel to Karachi. I was really surprised with the fact that this just kind of happened. I mean, I didn't suspect that we would be going to Karachi right away. I thought that there would have to be some type of reconciliation with Kamala and her mom before anything could move forward, and her having to explain something to her family. But instead, we just cut directly, and I guess that kind of makes sense from a plot perspective because you need to push everything forward, but also it would be very, very difficult to actually have that conversation on screen and have it be very compelling and make sense. I feel it's just a weird place, right? How do you have that conversation after everything that just happened in the previous episode? So I think they made the right choice of just skipping it entirely and just putting us right on the train, and then having us find out that Kamala's mom's along for the ride as well. Also, the idea that Nani already knows who she is, what she is, and her family history and everything, I thought that was very, very interesting. I didn't expect that to be true at all, and I think it's particularly interesting because her father knew what she was, so I assume that he was probably human. He ended up marrying Nani's grandma, or Nani's mom rather, and from there they had a conversation about everything, and he found out all the stuff about the clandestines, and I assume that that's what happened. But I found that particularly interesting because I would have suspected her to be ignorant to the situation and then potentially have Kamala have to explain some things to her, but she's already ahead of the curve, and I am hoping that she ends up teaching a little bit more to Kamala in the next episode as well. And I just really, really liked that Kamala had someone that not only knew what was going on, but she could trust, really trust, and have an open conversation about this stuff with. The next thing I want to mention is the fact that we got Red Dagger in this episode, and personally, I had no idea that Red Dagger was even an existing comic book character. I was very surprised and very, very happy to find out that Kamala isn't actually the only South Asian superhero. I mean, there is Red Dagger, who I'm guessing that he existed within the Miss Marvel comic, because from what I understand, he meets up with Kamala in one of her comics, right, when she visits Pakistan, similar to what happens in this episode. So I assume that the creator actually wrote this character in and made that of their own fruition, and I just find that very, very interesting, because like it's just something that I wasn't expecting and I really enjoyed. Now, I don't know anything about the actual character himself, so I'm curious to know like how close in line things are to his comic counterpart, but I really enjoyed like how he helped Kamala, but also like they started out fighting and everything, and on top of that, like how he led her to his master, and he ended up explaining a lot more about her lineage and everything like that as well. As a result, we do get a lot more of an explanation as to who the Djinns are, what their purpose is, specifically what I was talking about earlier with Thor, as well as like how the Noor dimension is kind of like on top of or superimposed on our own dimension, very different from how Asgard or any of the other realms are situated, as well as like the rest of space. No other alien race is really like on top of Earth, but in this case with dimensions, it's something that's superimposed on our own existence. It's just like something that we can't perceive or observe, and that you need a specific way to pass through to that realm, or to that dimension. I thought that was pretty interesting, and it like brought in a new element of potential like creatures and beings from this world. I mean, we don't know if it's just the clandestines that exist there. Like, are there animalistic creatures? Are there other types of beings out there beyond them? Like, how expansive is this dimension as well? Like, we have no idea. So I'm curious to learn more about that, and I really appreciated the fact that Kamala got a bit of a training montage through this as well, to learn how to control her abilities a bit as well. Also, this allowed us to get more of an idea of the specifics of what the consequences would be for helping the Djinn get back to their homeworld. I mean, this means that all of Earth would be essentially like rewritten, I guess. It seems as though that's what they're going for, that if the doorway to the Noor dimension and is opened again, like the entirety of the Noor dimension will just spread out or like merge with our world, and it would just become like one new like Noor dimension type of thing. And I just found this to be quite interesting. I do wonder how exactly that works logistically, in terms of, would that expand past Earth? Would that definitely like impact the rest of the universe? Like, how exactly does that work? I have no idea, but it's something that I have in the back of my mind that I'm like, it would be curious to learn more about that. Next, I do want to mention something that I think is kind of laughable, and not from a story perspective, but just like an in-world type of thing, and that is damage control. I honestly think that this group is just the incompetent little sister or little brother to S.H.I.E.L.D., right? I don't understand why they exist. Just bring back S.H.I.E.L.D., because S.H.I.E.L.D. at the very least would have a decent prison system for these beings that are way too powerful, that are enhanced individuals, and yet they only had like 2 guards guarding these people, and they got bodied, and then they were able to escape very easily, to the point where it's not even something that we have to watch on screen. They come back and we're seeing them again completely unharmed. So, I mean, it's honestly laughable. I feel like damage control is just a failure of an institution in the MCU, and I feel as though like they're gonna screw up even more as the series progresses. Now, I don't know if the purpose here is to actually make them seem incompetent, but the fact that they're so easily dealt with by the Djinn, by the Clandestines, it's just sad. And you're just like, why don't we have S.H.I.E.L.D. back? Bring back Nick Fury, let him reestablish S.H.I.E.L.D. I know he's up in space with S.W.O.R.D., but like, let him come back. Let him come back, rebuild S.H.I.E.L.D. And I feel like if Tony Stark was still around, he'd just be like, y'all are screwing up. I helped create you guys and you're just messing everything up. What are you doing? Furthermore, this is like even worse in my mind because of the fact that we have the Raft prison that exists out there, right? And if you already have a very clear and very well managed superhuman detention center, or like a place where you can imprison the Avengers, right? The characters that are on that level of strength or just like right under them, like, it makes sense to put these guys there. It's just stupid to do anything else. And it just shows how incompetent these guys are. I don't think I'm being too hard on them, but like, you know, if you guys disagree with what I'm saying, just let me know in the comments below because I am curious about that. Now let's talk about the Clandestines fighting against Kamala and the Red Dagger. I do think that Kamala and Red Dagger held their own, but it's very clear to see that Kamala is the bigger powerhouse, whereas perhaps Red Dagger is more technically proficient with his abilities. I mean, he doesn't have any superpowers, but he's very adept at using his weaponry and stuff like that, so he's capable of fighting, but every time he gets hit by the Clandestines, he just gets knocked down very easily. It's more like him avoiding and parrying and dodging and getting his actual hits in. That's where his strength is, but the problem here is like he just does not have the same level of power. This reminds me of someone like Black Widow or Hawkeye in terms of their capability, right? They're very, very good at what they're doing, but they just can't match the power output of some of these other characters. That's not to say that the character is less interesting or less capable. It's just like their strengths are very clearly not the same as Kamala's, because Kamala clearly has the power to actually match up with these characters, and I would say that she's even stronger than the others when she's actually using her abilities because of the fact that she has access to her full power. I think the chase scene was also very, very well done. I found it very interesting. Like, Kamala driving was very, very funny. Also, the way in which, like, Red Dagger tried to, like, evade, as well as the Master trying to go up against the main clandestine character. I mean, I just thought it was very, very well done and very, very intriguing and fun to see on screen. But at the same time, you can very, very clearly see that there is a power differential between Red Dagger and his Master versus Clandestines versus Miss Marvel, right? These characters have different levels of abilities, but the Clandestines have like probably hundreds of years of fighting prowess, so it's like very clear that they can still fight against Kamala and then also overpower the Red Dagger and his Master. Like, it's very clear, and then also they end up being able to kill the Red Dagger's Master, which is very, very unfortunate because I wanted him to be more present in the show. I thought it would have been interesting to see more from this character. Also, I wanted to know how much he knows about Kamala's family. Is he aware of Nani? Like, do they know each other? Stuff like that. That's something that I'm particularly curious about, and I guess we'll see in the next episode. Now, to end off this video, I do want to talk about the ending of this actual episode, and that is the fact that Kamala gets like hit by the bangle, like shooting out some like magic power or whatever, or like whatever you want to call it, power. I guess it's the Nur or whatever, which just means light, and she ends up somehow in Partition. I do want to know if this is just a vision for her, like what's actually going on here, because it seems like she's going to see what happened to her grandmother, and I think that that's going to be particularly interesting to see, and I'm just very curious to know what exactly they're going to try and do for the next episode. Also, are we just like not going to go back to New Jersey, or is that still something that's going to happen? Because like we only have 2 episodes left. I want to see what happens with Bruno and Nakia, right? They must at least come back in the last episode, I feel like. Regardless, I mean, I'm more curious to know what's specifically happening with this Partition thing, because I want to know, is she like traveling to the past? Because if she's traveling to the past, that's like an insane level of power right there. That's time stone levels of ability, and I'm very, very curious to know more about that. That being said, that is all I have to say for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe for more videos from me on this channel. Also, I have been posting a bit about this show on TikTok, so if you're curious about that, I'll have that linked in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye.